This is the cream of the crop.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen? How is everybody doing? Look, before we get started, Count on Snow here. He says he's a dirty lurker, but he's not. The subscription with Twitch Prime, 7 months with Twitch Prime. Thank you so much, man. I really appreciate it. Look, I'm only going to take a minute or two to kind of introduce today's topic and today's discussion. I hope a lot of you come in here, and I hope people either watch it here live on Twitch or they go over to YouTube. I'm going to be posting it as a full video over on my YouTube channel just to kind of drive the conversation forward, because one of the things that I've always thought was really a needing conversation. We always wait until the end of the season to crown coaches of the season, MVPs of the season, most improved team of the season, whatever it may be. We always do those kind of at the end of the year, and nobody really talks about them leading up to that. So right now, I want to go ahead and get into some things that I really think are pretty important. And today's topic, today's discussion that I want to have with all of you is the Gears Esports MVP race. Okay, I kind of want to get into. We've had 2 weeks go by. We've seen a lot of great plays already across our teams in the Pro League, but and you've heard us talk about on broadcast who we think are the MVPs. But you know what? ColinTheCrow Clark doesn't shy away from the hard debates. I don't shy away from pulling any punches. I might be the bad guy, the villain of the community, but that's fine. That's all right. I'll take that heat, because what I want to do today is give my top 5 MVP candidates right now. I'm going to list them out for each one of you. We're going to talk about their stats. We've got a little player card that we can pull up. But all in all, it's basically a little discussion. If you're in the chat and you want to talk about if you think I'm wrong, right, if you think somebody's ranked too high, too low, if you think I missed somebody, go right ahead and give me the business. I'll be happy to debate it with you at any given moment, but we're going to start things off, and I want everybody to kind of understand the rules of this. You cannot have more than one player off of any given team. So the top 5 players are all from different squads. So each squad can only be represented once. I don't care how dominant any given team is. I'm not going to have like 3 players from the Pittsburgh Knights and 2 players from Vanquish or vice versa. I'm going to have 1 player representing their team in the Gears Esports community. And I'm going to make sure I throw up their stats so everybody can kind of get a chance to see how people are, how do I put this, how they're dealing with themselves inside of their own team, what their rank is with their kills, their deaths, so on and so forth, what their average score is. These are the things that kind of give you an insight onto how I view these MVPs, and I'll talk a little bit about each of these players as I go through. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into our very first candidate for the MVP race. And my power rankings listed at number 5, I'm going to put Demon from the team Rebel. Everybody knows that name. We know that there might be some more famous names on Rebel, but let's take a look at some of Demon's, some of his exploits to kind of show you exactly why I chose Demon. We're going to pull up. Oh, I needed to change. You're right, Count on Snow. You're right. I'm an idiot. Let's just do all that right now. Sometimes I make dumb mistakes. Sometimes I make dumb mistakes, all right? I make dumb mistakes. I'll update all the information. It should be updated now. We're just gonna have to mull over that, all right? We're just gonna have to worry about that later. I've never told myself that I was the brightest crown on the box or the sharpest tool in the shed, all right? I'm a few cards short of a full deck when it comes to technology, but I appreciate you, Count, for calling that out. It should be updated now. Gears 5, Gears Esports MVP race, Gears Esports MVP race is the title. Everything should look right now on Twitch. I feel terrible for people that may have seen it differently, but we'll move on from that. We're going to keep going. We're going to keep chugging right along. At number 5, we've got Demon from the squad Rebel. I know there's probably some more famous names and faces from that squad, but Demon, to me, he's been their standout player this quarter so far. After 2 weeks, we'll take a look at some of his stats. Look, he's 3rd overall in his team in kills with 153, but then he's second with his assists and his deaths, meaning he's got the second least amount of deaths. He's got the second most assists. He's leading in score for his team, meaning he's having to do every and anything, whether it be cap or decap, get kills, get assists, finish players off that have been left behind. The only things that kind of worry me are his KDA or his kill to death and where his KDA falls on his team. He only has a 14 kill to death differential, giving him a 1.1 KD, which a lot of people might scoff at, and his KDA jumps him up to 2.21 when you add in all those assists to his kills and his deaths, which make him fourth on his team once again. So he's got other guys on the team that are slaying out. He's got other guys on the team that are playing those different positions to get those extra kills, maybe not dying as much because they're getting to be able to have help over the top from a guy like Demon. What you'll see happen a lot is Demon gets either left on his own or has to rotate to a different part of the map where he's by himself and gets called off, shot on, and shot out. So he's got a bit too many kill or deaths for me, and that kind of hurts his KD. But the things I focus on with him are his assists and his score. Right now, he's an assist god. He's an assist magnet. He's helping everybody on his squad, and his score shows you that he's having to cap different places. He's having to hang back, kick back, relax, and try his best to either get breaks later on in the rounds or to help double cap up a hill to try to get that point lead to be minimized as much as possible. So coming in at number 5, we've got Demon from Rebel. We'll come back over here for just a moment. We're going to go ahead and get number 4 onto our scoreboard. We're going to get him up here very shortly. Our number 4 player that is, in my opinion, in the power position to be 4 and could move up at any given moment, especially when you see his stat line. We've got Chaos from Fire and Ice. He actually tweeted out a few days ago that he felt like he was an underrated player, that people weren't paying as much attention to him. He's been on a few different teams for the last couple of majors, but Chaos to me has really proven in the past 2 weeks of Gears Pro League that he is one of the best players on the planet, bar none, without a doubt. I had the chance to cast over him the other night with Pittsburgh Knights and Fire and Ice, and he put his team on his back in a lot of situations that maybe they weren't as prepared for, or maybe shouldn't have come away with certain team fight victories. Let's take a look at his stat line, though, and this is a doozy. This is something that you really need to pay attention to when it comes to the squad of Fire and Ice. Take a look at that. First in on his squad in kills, first in score, so he's doing everything, whether it be capping, decapping, kills, or assists. His KD is first for his squad with a 40 differential and a 1.34 overall. And then you boost in those assists, he gets a 2.21 KDA. Chaos is leading his squad in more ways than one. He's one of the stalwarts of that team. He's been to multiple grand finals. He has officially made himself one of the upper echelon players, and he has been for quite some time. People need to stop sleeping on him and sleeping on Fire and Ice, but primarily, look, Chaos, I can't say it enough. I can't give you enough credit for what you've been able to do for your squad. I am wholly impressed. I'll be watching week in and week out, being able to try to sing your praises for the people back home. Here we go. We're going to keep trugging light along. We're going to go straight in to our number 3 player overall. We want everybody at home to start to see where they separate themselves, and I can make a better case for this guy than anybody else on his team. Demon and Chaos, they're leading in the score department. They're leading in that I do everything, the utility player department. Well, right here at number 3, we're going to go with somebody that this is where I'm going to start getting flack. This is where people are going to start pushing back against me, but the power rankings speak for themselves. This is my opinion. Explosive from UYU. They're 3rd overall in the league, and I know a lot of people are going to want to say Powers is the most valuable player to that team, but no way, no how. I give it to Explosive. Look, when you lose a guy like Mental and you've got to make up for the kills, the rotations, the extra Lancer in fights if he needed to pull it out, and the power weapon play that a guy like Mental brought to the table, Explosive has stepped his game up. He's tried to put himself everywhere on the map. He's been an everyman. He's been in just about every single fight. Whenever you talk about UYU right now, there's really only 1 or 2 talking points. How is TJ going to fit in with his squad, and can Explosive pick up that slack and continue to be the IGL that has won so many championships and has set himself and the bar so high for everybody on his squad? Let's take a look, though, at his performance so far, where he ranks amongst his teammates. Now, mind you, UYU, when they win, they're usually shutting people down. They haven't played as many maps, and things go very quickly when UYU's on a roll. So don't let the lower numbers kind of trick you. It's more about where they land within their own team. What is he able to to do while he's playing amongst his peers. So as we click over here, you're going to see he's second on the team in kills only to Powers. He is first on his team in assists, and that's by head and shoulders. He is a pretty decent far away a ways with those assists. Second on his team in deaths, so he's still giving out a lot of deaths. He is allowing a lot of people to get to him and get those kills on him, but that's because he's putting himself in a lot of very difficult positions. But there you go, second on the team and score with 91,000 overall. I mean, that's just a massive number to think about, but not as big as some of the other people's, because keep in mind, he has had to put himself in bad situations, and UIU doesn't play as many maps as everybody else. Usually when they win, they're pretty dominant in their victory dance. We go to the KD, though. This is the interesting thing. If you look at just his kills to his deaths, he is -2 in the differential. That means he has 2 more deaths than he does kills. He's therefore got a .98 kill to death ratio. But then you go to those assists. He's so far ahead, above, and beyond his teammates that he has a 2.32 KDA, and he's in first because of those assists. He has put himself everywhere on the map. He's not just IGLing. He's saying, where's the gap? Where's the opening? What lane is not being watched? I'll fill it. I'll take the fight. I'll get there and help somebody out. That's why Explosive, to me, over somebody else on his team, over just about anybody else in the league, has moved himself into position to be third overall on my power rankings. Let's transition back over. We've got 2 more spots, and these are the 2 that I'm definitely going to get hell for. I'm going to catch a lot of flack for, but I want everybody out there to kind of hear me out when I say this, how I put these 2 players and why I rank them the way that I rank them. First and foremost, let's get into number 2. It might be no surprise who I picked from this squad, but it might be a surprise that I listed him here rather than first. We've got Precisions from Vanquish, ladies and gentlemen. And I know Vanquish is undefeated just like the Pittsburgh Knights, but Precisions to me has to be ahead of everybody else on his team because of what I've had to see him deal with over the past 2 weeks. There's a lot of times where he's had to rotate around the map because somebody else loses a fight. He takes himself out of what would have been a front spawn dominating position where he's able to take over the artillery side of bunker. Somebody dies inside that mid cut, and now Precision's rotating over to the mid cut. He knows how dangerous he is. He knows how deadly he is. He rotates mid cut, takes another fight there. If he wins that one, it's time to go to the bunker building. He's continuing to take these fights solo, heads up, man to man, and he's winning a lot of them. And you can actually see that very easily once we bring up his statistics overall. He leads his team in kills, but he's 5th on assists. That shows you right there that they're not just putting him forward, they're actually making him stay out in front with his Nash route. They're making him take fights by himself on an island with maybe a Lancer for some help in the background from somebody like Vital Lord, like a Handles, somebody else having to rotate around behind him and get those kills, but he leads his team in deaths as well. That's the disheartening part. He is winning a lot of fights, but because he's by himself on the map, because he's having to live on an island, almost like Darrell Revis as a cornerback, where it said, look, you can handle this fight, he's getting a lot of deaths. He's garnering up his deaths very quickly in matches, so he might have to protect himself later in rounds. He might not have to respawn in rounds 3 to try to save up for 4 or maybe 8 and 9 later in the match. But right now, that's not the concerning thing. That's not the thing that I think everybody needs to pay attention to, because if you look, he has an 83 differential right now. He is 83 kills ahead of his deaths. It doesn't matter that he's got 131 deaths. Look at his kills, ladies and gentlemen. It speaks for itself what he's able to accomplish on the field of battle. His KDA might knock him down to 3rd, but that's because he's 5th overall in his assists. He doesn't have the chance to really pull out a Lancer, really snub out and help his teammates around the map because they constantly put him in those positions to get those first kills and then to continue forward in those marches. But look, we got 1 more spot to go. I don't think it's going to be any surprise to anybody if you've been paying attention to the broadcast, paying attention to how I've casted over their matches and what I've had to witness over the very first few weeks of these Pro League matches. Our first place player, and I'm not going to be able to understate this enough. Look, there is nobody on God's green earth doing it better than Monkeys from the Pittsburgh Knights right now. He is Mr. Consistency, and one thing I love more than just about anything else on the face of the earth is a consistent player, somebody that I can count on to power weapon play, to rotate, to shoot for me, maybe even be in the fight with his Nasher out, getting a maybe even getting the chunk for me. This is one of those things that I think is self-explanatory. In my power rankings right now, it's Monkeys head and shoulders above everybody else, and his stats will speak for themselves. First on his team in kills, but just like Precision, you have to take a look at this. They're putting him in those positions where he's not able to get the assists maybe because he's having to get so many kills, because he's having to rotate around the map so quickly. Maybe you take a 1v here. Maybe try to stave off two people and rotate out of a fight. The impressive thing, though, he's 5th on his team in deaths, ladies and gentlemen. Not only does he have the most kills, he has the least amount of deaths for his squad. So not only is he killing God and everybody else on the face of the planet, maybe even embarrassing some people, he's getting away with his life more often than not, and he's getting around the map to where he can help his teammates. First overall for score in his team, averaging over 10,000 a map. His first overall in his kill to death, 78 differential, leading his team, 1.63 overall. That KDA only drops him to 2nd, though, so he even bests Precision in that category with a 2.38 when it comes to playing amongst your peers. Monkeys is a force to be reckoned with, and right here, right now, I'm giving it my best go. Monkeys is my #1 overall player in the league. He is my MVP if I had to hand out the trophy today. I'm going to take a look over real quick to the chat, try to engage with some of you. I can see right here, Cells thought that maybe Cells should be there instead of Precision. He comes back, though, says he agrees with the top 3. So if you want to make a case for Cells, I'm more than happy to hear it. I'll look at it the best I can, but that's based on what I've been able to witness, what I've been able to kind of telltale out in those fights, and what he's been able to do. But until I can see any kind of response from that, we see Inca in the chat. What do you think is going on with Kenny? Just a slow start. Look, if you take a look at Kenny right now, Kenny's always kind of played that middle-of-the-road player, that second IGL, that other half of the map information gatherer. It's not been one of those situations where he's been able to play that same role. TJ brings a different aspect, a different look to this team. And by that, I mean Kenny's not able to take those fights as confidently because they're still working out a lot of their kinks. They're still working on a lot of the things that they have to get right. And maybe Kenny keeps finding himself in bad positions. And a lot of the times you see him still clutching up and still winning a lot of fights that maybe nobody else on the planet could win to try to give his team the ability to win that round later on down the road. But I think right now it's just a matter of figuring out how those 5 guys gel perfectly together. They're starting to get their feet under themselves. They're still 3-1 in the Pro League. They're only 2 matches behind Pittsburgh Knights. They're not going to be able to overtake Pittsburgh Knights because you only play every team once. So I think maybe UIU was hoping for a rock, paper, scissors situation where Vanquish beats Pittsburgh, UIU beats Vanquish, and then Pittsburgh beats UIU, and you kind of get that 3-way tie, and then it comes down to round differential and map differential, so on and so forth. Or maybe they just straight up mollywop Vanquish, Pittsburgh Knights beats Vanquish, and UIU comes out with a stacked out 2 overall in the Pro League. MVP of the league or most valuable player on one team. If it's of the league, then it's Monkeys hands down, no questions asked. And if you say otherwise, then you don't know Gears. If it's MVP of a player on one team, then you can make a case. I always go with MVP kind of the league. Who's doing the most on their team? If you took that guy off the team, would the team suffer more than just about any other position? So I always kind of go it by league situation. Who's doing the most for their team? Who's providing the most value per player on their team, PR? That's why I kind of rank it this way. As you can tell, I put Precisions over a guy like a Cells. I put Explosive over a guy like Powers, because what people are going to see is the talent of Powers and not what Explosive is doing for his squad. I put Chaos and Demon there. Even Demon, a lot of people are going to make a case for probably Crack or Cardia. I'm going to go with Demon right there in that position because of what he's able to do in those situations. So that's how I put that forward. That's how I'm kind of going about MVP. I feel like a Cell's better than 4-5 because he wins more than half of his fights and he is a top 2 in kills in the Pro League. I completely understand that. I have no issue with that. I think Acels right now, I think, is actually sitting at third overall in the Pro League. I think it's Monkeys and Precision are head and shoulders above everybody else. I think it's 214, 202, and then you drop into the 180s to find Acels. So Acels is doing very well. His stats are very, very good for his squad right now. But if I'm only picking one player per team to represent that team, like I said at the start of this, and I'm only giving each team one representative, and I'm going off of my personal opinion of MVP, that's how I'm going to go about it. I'm not that good looking, media, but thank you so much. You're definitely the sexy one out of the two of us. I love you to death. If we were talking about MVP of a team, it's 100% shock. If he isn't frying, Hive isn't winning, period. That's probably true. If I were to do it team by team basis and just pick the MVP from each team, I'm probably gonna have to give it to Shock off a Hive. But this is of the entirety of the league, so I'm gonna go. I'm going with my top five, my power rankings, kind of how I would look at it. Now, if it's one team, then it's probably Kenny Powers. Crack has been doing a lot in the front spawn for Rebel, though. Lots of double kills off the initial. The problem is Crack is getting all those double kills, but then what happens is Crack finds himself in these situations where somebody like Demon has to either rotate over to help him in the secondary fight, and then Demon has to come over and power weapon play as well. They bring him out of a lot of fights. And just like you've heard Taylor say it a lot of times on the stream, when we're getting to observe him, when we're getting to watch him, it's usually Demon time. When somebody has to clutch up, somebody has to make the right rotation, the right play, you usually find Demon in those spots doing the most for his team, which is why I went with Demon over Crack, over Cardia, anybody else from Rebel. I put him there at number 5. If Noble was on there, stuff, I would go with Zysho or Gears. Zysho actually has a really impressive stat line, if you ask me. And I almost debated putting somebody from one of those lower ranking teams up here because, once again, the way I look at MVP is kind of who's doing the most in the league for both his squad and the league in general. And a lot of people from Nobles are having to pop off. They're having to overcommit to a lot of things, a lot of fights in their rotations right now, and I think it's because they're having to play with subs. They're not really getting solidified practice because of whatever's been going on behind the scenes, but that's not for me to talk about or debate here. I'm just going with what I have seen over these first 2 weeks, what I have really come away with in these first 2 weeks of play. Crack puts himself on an island. And that's one of the things that Precision finds himself a lot on an island, but he's still there at number 2 because I think that if you find yourself on an island, if you can continue to win those fights without really needing the help over the top, that's what really does it for me. But I can only give one representative from each team, so I went with Demon. If I'm going to pick out Rebel, I'm going to pick Demon there to go in that 5th spot. It's just a matter of how you debate what is an MVP, what is the person that gets that nod from both the team and for the league. But look, I'm nearing about 24, 25 minutes since I started up chatting about this, talking about the MVP situation, showing everybody stats. This is a bare bones kind of run through of what I want to do from here on out for the rest of the weeks, even going into the playoffs up until we finish majors and we can actually get, a solidified MVP. Media by Hunter, thank you so much for the Twitch Prime subscription. I love you to death. You don't know how much I love you. You can't even underestimate. I'm a fat boy, and that's a lot of love coming at somebody. I'll tell you that right now. I'm a big fat boy, so that's a lot of love coming your way right now. But anyway, this is the bare bones of it. I'd really like to kind of get it better. I'd like to put maybe some replays in it like I did with kind of a sports center-y feel where when I talk about a player, I'm not just showing his stats. I can maybe put up a couple of replays of them so you can see what I'm talking about, see what comes away. What comes away from each player and why I picked them. Outside of that, maybe bring in another caster, maybe bring in somebody else from the community, maybe even bring in community members, audience members, whatever, do a call-in version. I think it's going to be something that I'd really like to do week in and week out. I'd like to kind of have a power rankings for MVP because power rankings are already done for me. If you take a look at the standings that are going on Gears Esports website, on UMG Gaming, at Twitch's channel, whenever they put up those standings, you don't really need power rankings for that. I mean, right now you can go power rankings between Vanquish and Pittsburgh Knights, but I think Pittsburgh Knights have to get the nod because they've already beaten UIU. They've taken UIU out, so they're probably better in the power rankings for overall teams. But I like to talk MVPs. That brings a lot of players into the mix. That brings a lot of personal ego into the mix, especially when players end up maybe seeing this. They probably will because I'm about to tweet out like a little recap at the very end of this, talk about everybody one final time and try to fit it in to what I could put onto a Twitter clip and just say, hey, look, this is kind of what I want to do. I hope you all tune in next week because I'm going to do it again. What do you think I can improve on? What do you think I can do better? Do I need to solidify it later in the night? So on and so forth. But this, like I said, it's bare bones right now. It's me running through it, trying to figure out what I want to do, how I want to do things, and how I want to approach kind of having an MVP power rankings race. But here we go. Let's do one little quick recap, ladies and gentlemen, just for everybody at home. This is the Gears Esports MVP race brought to you by ColinTheCrow Clark. These are all my opinions. And right now, the quick rule for you is each team can only be represented by one player. I took what ended up being the top 5 teams in the league, but I also thought that each of them had one of the top 5 MVP candidates. I went with Demon from Rebel for what he does for his team around the map with rotations, helping people over the top, and getting extra kills. Chaos from Fire and Ice has solidified himself as a top-tier, top-echelon player. He's proved it in his kills, his KDA, the ability for him to score for his team with late-round decaps to put pressure on opponents. We go to Explosive. El Capitan, as I like to call him, the captain of Gears Esports. He's won more championships than anybody else, and with the loss of Mental, he's put himself in a position to not just be the IGL, but to get kills, assists, and help every single member of his team out at any given moment on the map. Number 1 and number 2 are going to be highly debated and contested, but at the number 2 spot, I put Precisions with Vanquish, and I put him there because of how godlike he's been by progressing across the map, winning his 1v1s, racking up kills, and allowing the rest of Vanquish to put pressure either on a neutral hill or a home-to-home stretch, because it's so hard to take your eyes off of Precision, because if you do, he will make you pay for it in the blink of an eye. But at number 1 overall, ladies and gentlemen, I got to go with Monkeys. I said it on broadcast the other night. I say it here again today. He's leading his squad in a lot of categories, and he's leading everybody in the league in MVP points for me. I think he does any and everything: power weapon play, rotations, kills, assists, score. He does it all for his team. He is my overall MVP of the league. There it is, ColinTheCrow Clark's top 5 MVP candidates up to this point in the Gears Esports League. Once again,